The Legend of Zelda. Who can forget one of Nintendo's best gaming franchises ever made? With long captivating RPG-style stories and magical dungeons and puzzles, The Legend of Zelda has become one of the best with a huge cult following. All of the different games and different systems, starting with the Nintendo Game Boy all the way to the Nintendo Switch, and most of us have come across one of these fascinating games at some point. And if you haven't, maybe you should start now. I'm counting down some of the best of the Legend of Zelda games in all different consoles. Some of these games will always bring back memories to you, because when it comes to creating long-lasting memories, Nintendo has always come on top. Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo. This classical masterpiece brought Zelda to one of the most iconic systems ever made, the Super Nintendo. Ganon, the King of Evil, has broken free of the Dark World and has captured Princess Zelda, but before she was caught, Zelda managed to shatter the Triforce of Wisdom and scattered its 8 pieces throughout the land. You begin your adventure by finding a small wooden sword in a cave. Then, as you grow and experience its strength, so does your weapons. Help Link collect the captured pieces of the Triforce, rescue the princess, and destroy Ganon's evil plans. This game will always be a masterpiece and classic among those of us who had the luck to experience it when it came out back in the day. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Nintendo 64. This was one of the best games ever made in its time, and it still is a classic. New graphics using the newly established Nintendo 64 system, it brought players to the magical lands of Hyrule. You also could ignore or do several quests, and you had to learn songs that you would play on your ocarina in order to advance in the game. You also acquire items that would let you access and complete several different dungeons throughout the game, not to mention that you could travel back and forth in time using the Master Sword in the Temple of Time. This will always be a classic among gamers, and one of the best games ever made for the Nintendo 64, alongside games like Star Fox and Super Mario 64. The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, Game Boy. This little masterpiece, in my opinion, one of the best Zelda game storylines ever made, was made for none other than the Game Boy system. The music, the quest, the storyline, and the dungeons all combined to create a next level game that you could take with you anywhere because of another masterpiece of its own, the Nintendo Game Boy. Our hero Link washes up on the shores of a mysterious island called Kohonolet and must gather 8 musical instruments from 8 different dungeons in order to wake up the sleeping wind fish, which is imprisoned inside a gigantic egg that you will see as you play the game. In my opinion, this is one, if not the best Zelda game ever made, and its music and gameplay will always be engraved in my childhood memories. The Legend of Zelda, Nintendo. The game that started it all, this classical masterpiece, although simpler than its future counterparts, still remains one of the best Nintendo classical system games ever made. The Legend of Zelda game features a mixture of puzzles, action, adventure, battle, gameplay, and exploration. These elements have remained constant throughout the series, but with refinements and additions featured in each new game. Later games in the series also included stealth gameplay, where the player must avoid enemies while proceeding through a level, as well as racing elements. Although the games can be beaten with a minimal amount of exploration and side quests, the player is frequently rewarded with helpful items or increased abilities for solving puzzles or exploring hidden areas. Simple, classical. The beginning, the masterpiece. The Legend of Zelda for the Nintendo Entertainment Systems will always be a masterpiece, and it will bring us back to childhood memories. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, Nintendo 64. Another hit for the Nintendo 64, this awaited release brought back the good old RPG play, but with a different story. Set in Termina, an alternate version of Hyrule, where the school kid has stolen Majora's Mask, a powerful ancient artifact. Under its influence, the school kid causes the moon to slowly fall towards Termina, where it will crash after 3 days. Link repeatedly travels back in time to the beginning of the 3 days to find a way to stop the moon from destroying the world. The gameplay is centered on the perpetually repeating 3-day cycle and the use of various masks, some of which allow Link to transform into different beings. Link learns to play several melodies on his ocarina, which have a variety of effects, like controlling the flow of time or opening passage to 4 temples. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Nintendo Wii and Switch. One of the latest installments of the Legend of Zelda saga, this game was well received by fans and it's been said to be one of the best Zelda games ever made. The gameplay, although a bit changed and different, still has all the classical elements that made previous games hits. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, sheer freedom and sense of adventure is a remarkable achievement. Right from the start, the vast landscape of Hyrule is thrown completely open to you, and it constantly finds ways to pique your curiosity with mysterious landmarks, complex hidden puzzles, and enemy camps to raid for treasures and weapons. What elevates this game is the sandbox gameplay and the sheer freedom that you get in the gameplay. It all combines to create one of the best Zelda games ever made. All Zelda games are good. Old, new, and also titles that will come out in the future. But there will always be those games that will highlight themselves up out of the rest because they created iconic memories in our childhoods with their brilliant gameplay, music, and revolutionary graphics. The Legend of Zelda will always be one of Nintendo's best creations. All memories, new memories, and future memories. We will always grab the sword and the shield and head out the door for an everlasting adventure that will be sang in poems when Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf are long gone.